What's up everybody, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 in the house, bringing to you a brand new review series where I'm going to be talking about Season 5 of Supergirl. And the reason why I've decided to do this is because a few months ago I did a one-off review about Season 4 of Supergirl, which I went on to say was quite possibly the best season that the show ever produced, and it's certainly their most strongest. And I also said that Supergirl Season 4 broke the Arrowverse's Season 4 curse. And also, I've been doing review series on Batwoman and Arrow, so I figured that since I'm already reviewing two shows from the Arrowverse, why not do all the rest of them, especially with all of them all tied together for the upcoming Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event. I figured what better way than to tie all that together by reviewing all of the shows. So I'll be doing a review series on Season 5 of Supergirl, and I'll also be doing a review series on Season 6 of The Flash. Stay tuned for that. That will be coming up very, very soon. So with that all said, let's get right into it. Let's begin by talking about Episode 1, entitled Event Horizon. At the end of Season 4, Lena shot her brother Lex Luthor, and before he died, he revealed the truth to her that Kara Danvers is really Supergirl, and played a series of footage of Kara performing her Supergirl heroic deeds, which obviously shocked Lena and pushed her over the edge. Now, this has been 4 seasons in the making. Now, we all know this was going to happen, but it was just a matter of when it was going to happen. So now that Lena knows the truth that Kara is really Supergirl, there has been a lot of questions being asked going into Season 5. Will Lena Luthor be the main villain for Season 5 of Supergirl? And I did a video, I think maybe beginning of this year, that I said that I think Lena Luthor should be the main villain. And going by what I've seen in the premiere of Season 5, it looks like we may actually get that. So now that we've got the recap out of the way, let's get right into the first episode of Season 5. So we kick off this episode with an out of control school bus, and Supergirl is there, of course, to save the day. And Lena shows up and addresses her by name. And now when I saw this scene, it really threw me off, because I thought, oh, so we're actually getting to the good stuff already. But however, there was a slight little twist, because Lena punched Supergirl and she went flying. So I thought, hang on a minute, has Lena got superpowers already? Are we getting that showdown that we've been waiting for? But it turned out not to be real. It was nothing more than a virtual reality simulation. Now, the concept of this season, it looks like to me that they're building up the idea of, is technology a good thing or a bad thing, going by what I've read. So Lena is creating this virtual reality simulation where she is preparing herself to kill Supergirl for lying to her about her secret identity. Makes sense. And she's working with this AI who is trying to help her kill Supergirl. And Lena says to her AI, who she calls Hope, says, I don't want to kill Supergirl. I'm not a villain. I just want to make her feel the same pain that I felt. So, in a way, Lena doesn't see herself as the villain. She just sees herself as a best friend who's been hurt. But we all know that she's going to become the villain eventually. So it's going to be very interesting for this season to see how she will get to that point. So we see her slowly starting to go down this dark path, so to speak. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they're going to get Lena to becoming the main villain for this show. So it should be a hell of a ride. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how we'll get there. So quite a lot has changed from the end of Season 4 to Season 5. We see now that Noonan's is now sponsored by Obsidian North Tech, and everyone is now engaged in their own augmented reality thanks to the tech in contacts by Obsidian North. We see now Kelly Olsen is now dating Alex Danvers. Brainiac 5 and Nia are now dating. And Kara Danvers has won the Pulitzer Prize for her coverage on Lex Luthor. So there's quite a lot that's happened since the end of season 4 all the way to season 5. But Kara is obviously agonising over the fact that she hasn't told Lena the truth. Boy oh boy, she's in for quite a shock when she finds out that Lena already knows the truth. But we will get to that at some point down the road. Anyway, with that all said, so Alex gives Kara a little pep talk and says, look, she's your best friend, just tell her the truth, she will understand. And Kara, of course, says, yeah, but if I tell her the truth, she will probably never speak to me again. She's going to feel betrayed. She's going to feel hurt. I can't do that to her. And Alex says, it's better to tell her now than never at all. Tell her now before it's too late. So it's really good to see that even though Supergirl always does the right thing, she agonises over the one thing that's been hanging over her head, and that's telling her best friend the truth. So this is kind of brings back some memories of Clark and Lex, going back to the Smallville days, where Lex wants to know the truth, but obviously Clark can't tell him. So it's kind of good that we're getting that sort of dynamic with Kara and Lena. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this will play along. So we learn that Lena Luthor has sold Catco to a lady named Andrea Rojos, and she is now the editor-in-chief. Now, these two, from what I understand, have a long history. They went to boarding school together, and unlike previous bosses like Cat Grant and even Jimmy Olsen, Andrea is more of a very strict, no-nonsense type of chick. So she wants to get the truth by any means necessary, and she doesn't care who she steps on to get to that. So it's really interesting that we're getting another boss of Catco, but she's much more uncaring and a lot more ruthless. So who knows, maybe she might be one of the main villains for this season. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. She's already set the tone, and she's already started to boss Kara around, so I'm looking forward to seeing how her character will develop as this season goes along. So at the National City Museum, a group of children are on a field trip, and they see the museum about Krypton and about Superman, when one of the kids' eyes starts glowing. And we all know that this child is really the brother of John Jones, who we saw show up at the end of season 4. So he's disguised himself as a little girl trying to look for his brother. So he turns into a giant dinosaur and starts causing all sorts of chaos in the museum. I like the idea that we see giant dinosaurs and we see like superheroes fighting these giant reptiles. It's kind of like a little throwback to the old 1940s of the comic books and even the Matt Fleischer Superman cartoons. So it's really cool we get to see scenes like that. So Lena and Kara meet up, and just when it looks like Kara is about to tell Lena the truth about herself, she gets a call about the dinosaur situation. Now Lena, being no fool, she already knows that Kara is Supergirl, and she pretends, no, it's okay, Kara, you take the call, it's alright, we'll catch up another time. So it's really cool to see that Lena is already 3 or 4 steps ahead already. So as I said, I'm really enjoying this, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this will progress. So Kara in her Supergirl identity arrives, and her and this dinosaur go at it, and John Jones shows up in his Martian Manhunter alien form, and before John Jones can even get a chance to hit the alien, he's hit by some invisible force field barrier which causes him major head trauma, and he collapses, and Supergirl's costume and cape get damaged in the battle. So this is obviously going to set up for Supergirl getting her new suit for this season. So it's a lot of fun, this scene. I enjoyed this a lot. So we see the dinosaur change into the ship that brought Superman to Earth and just smashes out of the window and escapes. So it looks like this alien, who is J'onn J'onz's brother, has some sort of psychic connection to J'onn J'onzz, which is probably why he wasn't able to go after him. So we're going to probably learn more about what that link is and how we'll get to know more about their relationship. Lena, meanwhile, has promised Andrea that she will deliver to her a major story. Now, the major story that she plans on delivering to her is the truth about that Kara is really Supergirl. So it's quite interesting that we now see that Lena doesn't want to kill Kara, not yet anyway, but she wants to expose her first. So it looks like she's planning to break her down emotionally and then obviously break her down physically. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how that's going to pay off. Also, Andrea reveals to all the staff at Catco that a new staff member is coming and they're going to be all about clickbait and that they're now on new 3-year contracts. And if they do leave, they won't be able to work anywhere else. Ouch. Bit much, isn't it? Very, very harsh. We see the little girl from earlier in the museum, who is actually J'onn J'onzz's brother in disguise, and he uses something from the pod to open a portal and releases a villain called Midnight. Now, this villain, Midnight, goes after J'onn J'onzz. She's after revenge after J'onn put her in the Phantom Zone. We learn that Midnight once worked with the White Martians, but J'onn put a stop to her, even though he can't exactly remember how that happened. So there's already a little bit of history and a bit of beef going on there already. We're also introduced to a new character named William Day, who is the new member of staff that Andrea was talking about earlier, and you can clearly see that he's not what he seems. He's very creepy, he's a bit of a slime ball, he's got that posh accent, and you can clearly see that he's not a good guy, and he looks like one of those types of guys who will do anything he can to get the story, so he's going to be quite an interesting foil for Kara in the Catco department, so to speak. And I think even in one point in this episode, he even tries to follow Kara to find out what she's really up to, so he's already going to prove himself to be a bit of a nuisance, so that's going to be quite a lot of fun to see. Now we get to the Pulitzer party, and Brainiac 5 has planted a microscopic device which will contain her new suit and attaches it to her glasses. So rather than Kara doing the traditional thing of ripping her clothes off and she's in the Supergirl costume, we're going to see a new way she's going to change into Supergirl. And Kara sees Lena and goes to talk to her and spills her guts out and tells her that she's a lousy friend and that she's sorry that she kept the truth from her. I'm really Supergirl. I thought this was one of Melissa Benoist's best performances. I mean, I did say in the season 4 review that Melissa has really matured as an actress and she got better and better, and I thought this was one of her best emotional performances, and it was so emotional but really good at the same time, watching her just pour her heart out to Lena, even though Lena already knows the truth. And wow, I have to say this is one of the best performances I've seen from her since this show started. I really enjoyed that scene a lot, and even I got a little bit emotional. I was like, wow, she's just putting it all out there, and you could really see that this was like a huge weight just lifted off her shoulders. But she's in for a real sorry shock later on in the season. But as I said, we'll get to that later on. So Midnight shows up and causes all sorts of trouble, just as Lena is introducing Kara and presenting her award for Best Pulitzer Prize and telling her that she will always be her best friend. And Kara changes into Supergirl for the first time in her new suit. Now, what I liked about this was When she decides to become Supergirl, the suit just kind of like pours onto her body. It kind of like materializes and just covers her whole body from head to toe. So that was quite a cool moment. And I love the way Kara just says, "Oh my god, pants!" So that was quite fun. That actually made me laugh a little bit. So Midnight creates this black hole and Jean gets kicked into it, and we see everyone all suit up. So we see Nia in her Dreamer suit, and we see the Guardian, aka Jimmy Olsen, all suited up. And I like that line Alex says, "God, how do you guys suit up so quick?" So this scene was a lot of fun, and we got to see Supergirl in full superhero mode as she like flies into the black hole and brings John Jones back to our world. So this scene was a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed this a lot. This was very classic superhero stuff, and they really pulled it off well. I thought they did an excellent job with this scene. We see Andrea freaking out over the fact that she didn't get the major story that Lena promised, and Jimmy turns around and says to her that "I quit." So it's quite interesting to see where Jimmy goes from here after being, in charge of Catco after taking over from Cat Grant. So I thought this was quite a good thing that Jimmy did, because he's not going to be allowed to be walked all over by Andrea. So he just says, "You know what, I'm done. I'm out of here." So props to Jimmy. He kept his pride and his dignity, and he walked out with his integrity. So he leaves like a boss. Good on you, Jimmy. Good for you. We see Brainiac 5 agonising over the way he treated Nia back in the last season, but Nia reassures him and they share their first kiss after a whole series of weird handshakes courtesy of Brainy. So that was good to see their relationship finally take that first major step. We see the little girl at Jean's office, who now confirms to be actually Jean's brother, but he doesn't seem to quite remember who he is. And we also see Supergirl meet Lena and says, "I'm really glad that things are okay with us." And she presents to her with her signal watch and says, "If you ever need my help, just hit this and I'll be there." So the AI says to Lena, "Have you forgiven her?" And Lena says, "No, I haven't. We're going to use Supergirl to our advantage." And the last shot we see Eve Tessmacher, Lex Luthor's assistant, kidnapped by an unknown assailant, and that's how this episode ends. So I have to say, this episode was really good, but in some ways it felt like a season finale, because when you have Supergirl getting her new suit, Supergirl bearing her soul to Lena, all these sort of things happening, it kind of felt more like a season finale than a season premiere, but I still enjoyed it. I really liked this episode a lot, and I've said before that since season 3, Supergirl's been on a roll. Season 3 was good, season 4 was the best that the show has ever produced, and it looks like they're keeping that momentum going for season 5. So I'm really enjoying this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how we'll develop as we go along here. So I'm going to leave this here for you guys. What did you think of the season 5 premiere? Did you enjoy it? Was there anything you liked? Was there anything you didn't like? Also, what's your thoughts on Supergirl's new suit? Do you like it, or do you prefer her classic suit with the red skirt? And what's your thoughts on Lena Luthor possibly becoming the main villain for this season? Leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see you all next time for another edition of the Supergirl review series of season 5, where I'll be talking about episode 2. So till then, take care everybody.